Hello, and welcome back to the Hilariously Unemployed podcast, where I'm your host and favorite opportunity seeker, Zayna Duckworth, aka the Big Speaker. You probably are knee deep in somebody's leftover turkey by now. Probably are reheating those leftovers and just stuff like a little bug in a rug. Well, I'm happy that I can bring you this post Thanksgiving celebration on this Friday and have you all join me for some more tales of the hilariously unemployed. Before we go any further, though, highlights on my life. Big announcement, y'all. My mom rang the bell today. Yes, your girl beat cancer. I am so ecstatic that this journey has finally come to a close for her. She had on all pink. If you follow me on my socials, you'll see that my girl was decked out in all of her pink and just so thankful and so grateful that her journey with breast cancer is over. And I couldn't be more excited because that's my mama. That's my twin. So I just wanted to let you all know that and love on your folks. Thanksgiving is coming for you all or has passed by the time you see this episode. Spend time with your people, love on your folks, especially those mamas if you have them, those papas if you have them, because when they go through something like that, man, it really rocks you. And I was thankful that I was able to be at her treatments with her and kind of go through the process with her and just be strong for her because, mamas are always strong for us. Now it's time to drag the state of our economy because who would I be if I didn't? Yeah, the shutdown is over, but it still feels bad outside, right? Everything is still very, very expensive. Nothing has changed. Everything has risen. People are still getting laid off, furloughed, and what have you. Do you know that mess of a government shutdown caused 650,000 workers to be furloughed, with some of them expecting back pay and some of them still having yet to receive that? Government contractors are kind of in the okie doke because they don't know if they're going to get back pay if they continue to work. And they also don't know if they'll continue to be able to work with the ever changing landscape of our US government. That's enough on that. Who's on the chopping block this week? Verizon, you're at the top of the list. 13,000 employees. Wow. Who made that mistake? Okay, some things have to happen for you to have to make a cut that large. Something was shifting inside of the business, and that shift impacted 13,000 employees. Spooky times. GM, 1,700. Paramount Plus, 1,000, with 600 additional scheduled to come. So things are still very scary out there, despite us being away from Halloween. The spook of layoffs is something that just doesn't seem to go away. Current unemployment rate, 4.4%. The Bureau of Labor Statistics didn't publish its monthly job report in October. You guessed it, because of the government shutdown. And adding to the story, we know we talk a lot about tech, we talk a lot about healthcare and those layoffs. Finally, a U.S. oil giant, ConocoPhillips, informed its employees in early September and has started to reduce headcount 20 to 25% in its global workforce. Y'all know what I say, nobody's safe. So if you are employed, continue to be employed. If you are employed, like my man Matt Kirby says, always be applying, keep your head on a swivel, and read the writing on the wall. If it is your time to bounce, make yourself an exit plan. And with that, I got somebody that is going to be the perfect guest to talk about making an exit plan and how to really go on this journey of being your authentic self, having a brand that lasts, and being the type of fearless leader that we all want to be. I am so thrilled to welcome to the stage, okay? This is a tech executive. She's a visionary, y'all. She's been in the tech game as an executive with over 20 years of experience with some of those very big names we know that we all aspire to work for or we work with. We know who those folks are. She's also an author of a very new book. The audiobook came out today and I've started listening. So I'm very excited to talk to her. I want to welcome to the show, Suzette. Suzette, please say hello to the hilarious.
Hi, everybody. That was a beautiful intro, Dana. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I'm so happy to have you on the show. I found this beautiful lady via a LinkedIn post she shared. She was talking about what she was going through, and I got in those comments and say, "Come talk about it on my show." She said yes.
Listen, I appreciated just your warmth and kindness and the opportunity it's a really fascinating time, right? And I think we all have a lot to think about. And so I really appreciate you for reaching out and creating an opportunity for me to even share my voice and perspective on everything that's happening right now.
Of course, it's so fitting. It's so fitting with your book, the title of your book, the way that you are going through it. And it really is a roadmap for
Mhm.
us. But before we delve into that, we got to kick it off the same way we do every time. How long have you been hilariously unemployed?
So, Dana, I love this question because it goes back to, and you and I, and what I will say about Dana is she preps her guests very well. And so I think the thing that we both shared in common was while we've had an opportunity to be employed by other folks, we always also have that kind of entrepreneurial
Mhm,
aspect of our personalities and what we've committed to having both these wonderful, incredible careers, but also our own thing. And so,
mhm,
as I've been thinking about this question, what has been really interesting for me is it's both the I've been laid off, but I still don't see myself as unemployed. Does that make sense, right? Where I no longer work for another corporation, but I still very much have my brand and my identity
mhm,
and my entrepreneurial things going. And so, my role was eliminated a couple of months ago,
mhm,
but I have been going nonstop because my book launch was also during this time frame. And so while I'm no longer employed
mhm.
by my former entity, it's funny. I just had therapy. I've still been going nonstop as if, and it's because as an
Uh-huh.
entrepreneur, someone that does enjoy being employed in other spaces, the beauty of this time is I've been able to focus on my own entities and brand.
Mhm. Listen, it doesn't stop. And that's
Mhm,
really the dream I have for people who go through this because
mhm,
the first time I wasn't laid off, I went through an acquisition and found myself without employment because that wasn't a fit for me, right?
mhm,
And I didn't have that brand and that identity to also have something going on in the
mhm,
interim of finding my new role. Now, in this secondary, space in my life, I had those things that I had already been building,
mhm,
so that's really a goal that I have for the audience and everything that they're doing. Like, despite working in a career that you may love for a company that you may love, also having something additional that if the thing that you love so much should happen to go away, you still have something. Also, once you get laid off, you do not work less, you work more.
yeah.
You work so much more. You don't work for one company, you work for yourself who wants to work with 50, 60 companies. So you yourself become kind of an enterprise, and it's no longer, I have this deadline, I have these things I have to do. Now you're thinking about growth, you're thinking about marketing, you're thinking about product, you're thinking about like connection, collaboration. There's so many more things. So that's why it feels like you have not slowed down a bit. And then you throw a book on top of
And in retrospect, if I can just be transparent with you and the audience, as I now come into this is my third launch.
it. Mhm,
So I launched the book in the US on October 21st.
mhm,
And then last week I was in London for the launch of the UK version of the book. So it's still very much the same book, but the UK launch date was last week. And then today was the launch of the audiobook. And I'm sitting in this moment, and I've always been a high performer, right? So was working full time and wrote my book while I was working full time, building a brand while I was working full time, and being on this side of we call it my launch. Um, I'm like, I don't know, Dana, how I was gonna launch a book three
mhm,
times and work full time. And what I'm also thankful for is just space to breathe.
yeah,
You mentioned I have a 20 plus year career. If you want to take it even further, per Social Security, I've been working since I was 14. So I now have enough quarters if we don't run that money out, right? So I've been working for over 30 years. I got my first
yeah.
paycheck summer 1996. And I don't want to minimize the devastation, the grief, the emotion that come with
Mhm.
a layoff, but there's also like space to just breathe a little bit. And I didn't know how much I needed it until I didn't have a choice about it.
Yeah, I was just telling someone the other day. I was talking to a guy, a new guy. So it's a new guy. Anyway, so I was talking to a
Is
guy.
that a different show segment? I love
Well, my
it.
audience knows I got laid off and divorced in the same month, so they hear about my
Oh,
shenanigans occasionally.
wow. Oh,
We're
well.
doing well. So I was talking to him and I was telling him, he was like, "So what do you have going on?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm home for the rest of the year. Like this is a slowdown for me." He's like, "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" And I said, for most entrepreneurs, slow down means slow down in funds. But for me, it's like finally slow my body physically down and allow my mind to catch up to some of the thoughts that are in between those flights and in the Ubers. And so I'm excited about the slowdown and not having to physically move space, but really being in my creative space for the rest of the year. I think that having that, like we talked about, that permission to pause and that opportunity to just be like, I don't have to get up tomorrow and go do anything on a schedule. If
Yeah.
my mind says create this thing tomorrow, then that's what we're going to do. So it's really just the freedom of choice that we have in that space. And I think that as bad as a lot of people want to get back to work, you're never going to get that time back. So what you do in that time is going to be so important to the way that you enjoy the rest of your life.
Absolutely 1000% agree.
All right, so let's take the people back to
Yes.
that early career. I know you started when you were 14, but you could speed us up a few years. Let's talk about your early career. What was that like? What was your journey? How did you get this thing started?
Well, Dana, I would say I have the blessing of having had a very circuitous career path.
Mhm.
And if you would have asked me, so I've been in tech, I still haven't officially been in tech 10 years yet. So I moved to California in December of 2015 to take my
Mhm.
first role at Google. And so for, the 10 years or so before that, I was in education and education reform. And so I'd gone to, public policy school for my master's at Georgia State. I'd worked in the office of the chief of staff, so had been, supporting the legislative aid, had written a policy, I was like, okay. And then ended up working for Teach for America. And so for, maybe that first 10 years, I was really focused on the business side and the human capital side of bringing mission-driven people into the work of ensuring that, students had access to high quality and to a high quality education.
Mhm.
And in 2015, I got approached by Google. So, talk about transferable skills. A lot of people are like, well, how did you go from nonprofits
Yeah.
to corporate? And it's all about, and it's what my book is about, how you talk about your skills and your ability, but ultimately your impact. Right. And
Mhm.
so, it doesn't matter that I was working in nonprofits. I understand how to build teams. I've built teams in high growth, small nonprofits. My organization, my last education organization that I worked for, in my first year, I took that team from 60 to 200, right? And it's, do you know and understand how you build high volume hiring processes and systems and rubrics and all the other stuff? And so being able to translate your impact in any space that you're going in and how you talk about your skill set.
Mhm.
And so was at Google for about 5 years, and then had an opportunity to transition to lead a team recruiting function at Meta, and then went to Gartner, and then most recently Salesforce. And so what I'll say the common thread of the last 10 years has been a commitment to really helping organizations think about how we're creating access and opportunity at every level. So I've done everything from, prof services, non-tech, to being most recently focused on programs for executive recruiting. And so I love talent acquisition, and I love just the idea of, like, when you actually think about your experience as an employee, if someone was thinking about the entire employee continuum and
Mhm.
really thinking about the talent acquisition being as that first contact, right? And every single point along that journey being an opportunity to retain, it then changes the experience of how you bring people in. And I like to think about the whole employee experience in that from a talent acquisition lens. And so I think sometimes the other thing is really important to me. People will see, well, you've worked in diversity recruiting,
Mhm.
so like you are a DEI expert. And what I tell people all the time is I am a talent acquisition leader that has a discipline in DEI, but I've had to build an entire talent acquisition function in spite of that. And so if we're actually thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion as a business function, you embed it into your strategy. And so will always be a part of how I lead and how I think about teams, but that's not my soul, right? That's not my soul skill, which I also think, especially if we name and call a thing, Dana, a lot of the first waves of layoffs this year were within the diversity, equity, inclusion space. And the thing that I saw happen was people were being laid off for those roles. And when you were talking to them, they were like, well, I just do DEI work. And I was like, well, but what is that? And how do you begin to reframe and rethink about who you are, how you lead, the impacts you have, so that you can pivot, right? Because the other thing that I know to be true is the world as we know it, especially in that space, is not going back to what it was before January 21st of 2025. And so it's how do we reimagine and really rethink how we talk about ourselves for our what's next?
Yeah, absolutely. As somebody who is a DEI consultant and did work in that space, it was a shift. Like we all felt the shift, and you had to be adaptable and very flexible. And for me, similar to you, like I knew my core was the internal customer and employees. Whatever I was doing around DEI, it was to make sure that the employees felt really good inside of an organization, that the culture was very, very strong there, because the external customer would receive all of the benefits of that. Right. So that's always been the way that I looked at my work. So people were like, hey, this shift is happening and things are changing. Are you scared? What are you going to do? And I'm like, no, because I've always focused on the employees. I've always focused on the culture inside of an organization. So whether that is DEI or we want to call it another thing, I'm going to make sure that my work results in the employees feeling good, because it makes the organization better. So I think that we all had to do a job reframing that, or rethinking the way that our skill set could now be received. And some people are still receiving it as DEI. Some people are receiving it as whatever you want to call it. Just pay me for what I do.
Just pay me.
Yeah. So when you think about the job market as a whole, and specifically like Black women and some of the exodus that we've seen from Black women in spaces where they are executives, where they are in leadership roles, or they do have departments and they're directors, we've seen a lot of them, one, say, I'm done and walk away. And then, of course, two, we've seen them be impacted by layoffs heavily. What are your thoughts in regards to that?
So I think about it in two different ways, right? Both also living within the reality of I'm a Black woman that is one of many in a number that is astounding. But if we think about, right, like from a macro level, and you started this conversation beautifully with like a macro lens on this, what we're seeing is the fallout from there was a long period of time in all of these corporations where we were rewarding organizations for growth for the sake of growth, right? And whether or not companies and organizations did that responsibly, right? We're on these massive hiring sprints, we're growing. And what we've seen, especially as we look at the market, as we're looking at the AI boom, it was AI boom and now it's contracting, right? You know, Warren Buffett has sold off stuff. SoftBank sold off all of their shares in NVIDIA. Investors are scared. And so now organizations are being held accountable to operational margins and delivering on their promise to investors to create profit for them, right? And so as someone that follows the market pretty closely, I'm like, okay, so all these organizations that from, let's say, you know, when I think about my first foray into tech, I was employee number 40,000. By the time I left 5 years later, I was employed. There was over 100,000 people. That's a lot of growth, right? And you're beginning to see that constrict. And so I think the conversation we need to first have is what is happening, right? So we're not losing our jobs because of AI. AI independently is not smart enough.
Right.
How many times do you have to tell chat remove that M dash?
Somebody's finally, every single time.
Finally stopped with the M dash, but we need to have better conversations about what's happening in the market, because that's how we then prepare ourselves to leverage the tools like AI to then speak differently about ourselves on the other side of this, right? And so it's how does AI, future of work is being able and being adaptable to emerging technologies should be a resource to augment your skill set to then make you an asset to an organization. That notwithstanding, right? Now coming back into like the specific case around Black women, I think what we also need to be holding organizations accountable to is in many spaces, you have managers, not leaders, making decision about who's leaving their team.
Yeah.
And so I would like to see organizations, and I don't know if we would, but like do equity assessments about as we're constricting and trying to course correct that we're no longer growing for the sake of growth. We're now accountable to investors that are saying like, you need to be delivering. I can't see your stock price tanking. You've given us this promise of AI and all these other transformational things. I'd like to see an equity assessment of as you are reducing your headcount, how are you making determinations about talent? Is it that you are getting rid of folks because you simply want to get rid of folks? Or is it personal? Or are we just making these like mass decisions without actually being thoughtful and using strategy? And in some cases, not using integrity when we're making these decisions. And so I don't think it's by mistake that we're seeing the numbers that we are, but I also don't think we're seeing it with any kind of strategy or purpose either.
Yeah. It's like, listen, layoffs, as much as they say it's like it's business, it's not personal. Humans are biased. So it's always going to be kind of personal. At the end of the day, if we are not taking those assessments of ourselves as we make those decisions, it is going to be personal. It's who you like working with more, is who you get along with better, is who you can make stay late. So those are some of the things that are happening in those decisions. And granted, everybody wants to work with people that they like more and people that'll stay late and do more. But should it be at the fault of people who come in and do their job and do it well?
Absolutely. And I think my thing for us to watch and the cautionary tale, Dana, that I would say I would make to corporations. You can't pendulum swing with the political climate.
Correct.
So we're beginning to see, again, now affordability is a conversation and we're pivoting back to another political side, right? And in 2020, what is the next election?
8 or 9?
2028. They come so quickly, I feel like. In
2028.
2028, because the midterm is 2026, so 2028. And you even got to think about the midterm, right?
Yes.
So 2028, we have another election. We go back to another party. This party comes in, undoes everything that was just done. As a corporation, you now have new guidelines and guidance to follow. It's fascinating. So like, are you going to have to pendulum swing back and, refocus? And I'm like, if you actually treated the composition of your organization and reflecting the world that you serve and build it into the fibers of your organization, you don't have to worry about what person is sitting in office. And if you have to pendulum swing, you're always focused on the best possible experience for your employees and the best possible outcome for your customer.
Absolutely. Okay, so take me back to the day where you got your phone call, email, Slack message, Zoom, however they were doing it, wherever you were. Take me back to that day, knowing that you were already in the midst of your book. The book was already established, already working on prior to this audience. We're going to go into the book after we get into this layoff question, because I think it's important that the audience gets to know you as a person who's like, I'm already building something for other people. And then you find yourself in a position of those people.
Yeah.
Got it.
So thank you. Because I think it's fascinating. When I wrote the book, I had no idea I was going. Right. It's not that I didn't know I was going to need the book. I didn't know I was going to need the book. There's no way that I ended up needing the book. So pulling back, you and I love entrepreneurship. So I've always had my own brand. I've always done multiple things. I've had a coaching practice before, where it's funny when I think about this now, all of my clients Actually really funny. All of my clients for my coaching practice, so I was focused primarily on leaders in the nonprofit and education space, were based in Abu Dhabi because they were expats that wanted to transition back into school leadership and school roles. And so I just found like this beautiful community of leaders that became my clients because I started getting referrals like, oh, she can help you prepare to transition back, right? Wow. So I've always had my own thing. And so my book actually is built on 10 years of work that I've done. So I did a TEDx talk. A lot of things happened in 2015. So before I went to tech, I did a TEDx talk on covering. So finding and being authentically, the name of the TEDx talk is Uncovered Finding and Being Authentically Yourself in the Workplace, and is about the idea, Deloitte had actually produced a study that explored how people hide facets of their identity in the workplace and what the actual implications were of that. And so my talk was like, how do you show up and be authentically yourself at work? And so over the course of 10 years, I've had major corporations say, hey, actually had a Fortune 500 bank reach out to me and say, will you design a training based on your TEDx for us? And it started this incredible like adventure of, then other corporations were reaching out. And so I'm teaching global teams and, you know, I'm talking about this all over the place. And so when it came time to do my book, one of my mentors was like, you know, because I struggled. I was like, you know, this is my first book, what I'm writing about. She's like, girl, like you have like expertise in something, like focus on the gift that you're going to give to the world. And it was actually really codifying what it means to be able to show up as your authentic self in the workplace, right? So again, doing this and working full time. When I think about it, I was like, were you sleeping? Probably not, because I also have, you know, we have a high standard for ourselves in the workplace. And I didn't want to feel like I was shorting my job and my team by not showing up and being present and who I, you know, was supposed to be as a leader in my job. And so, you know, this year was full of a lot of experiences for me. So I went to London to cover for one of our teams there. So I've, you know, now had a global leadership role, come back in August, and I hadn't seen my mother this year. So I went home for Labor Day. And so the other kind of funny story is on Labor Day, me and my mother have this tradition of like going through all of the albums, and we're looking at my very first paycheck from 1996. I posted on LinkedIn on Labor Day, like, oh my God, look at my first paycheck. And then I went into the next day, what I thought was my regular check-in, and my manager, who still remains, right? Like, what doesn't, I don't, layoff is for me, I'm not taking it personal. You know, it was like, hey, like, sad to inform you that you are, you know, your role's been impacted, reduction in force. So I'm sitting at my mother's kitchen table because I wasn't flying home until that night when I found out that I was getting laid off. And I'll be honest, right? Like, you don't know how you're going to react, especially when I'm like, oh, this was not the check-in I was anticipating. And like, you go into the shock of like, my job is gone, right? And so like literally my manager's like, you're smiling, but it was like a shock smile, like, what? Yeah. Like, did you just say that? And then very quickly turned into tears. And so I'm sitting at my mom's kitchen table. I've closed my laptop because I'm done. And I'm crying. My mom is like, and I'm Jamaican. So my mother is very much a Jamaican mother. She's the sweetest person on earth, but Jamaicans have like limited tolerance for certain things. So she comes in there like, what are you crying about? And I was like, you know, mommy, I just got laid off. And she was like, you know, I think I'm just going to stay because I now don't need to go home for work. And she said, absolutely not. She's like, first of all, you have your book and your brand to focus on. That comes out in 2 months. Go focus on your book. Focus on your thing. You have your thing. You don't worry about that. And you're going to go home. Like, you are not going to stop moving forward with your own thing because that's gone. You now have more time. So like, no, go home, get on that plane tonight and go home. And it's, what's fascinating about that is like, if you know Jamaicans, you're supposed to have a job in many instances, right? Like, jobs. jobs, right?
Uh-huh.
And so like, but the fact that my mom looked at me and was like, you have your thing.
Yeah.
One is just like powerful for me because it'd have been easy for me to like spiral. And she very quickly refocused me. She's like, first author in the family, you got stuff to do. Go get that book. You've been investing in it.
Yeah.
But also like I had this realization, Dana, and again, I had the beauty of having my own thing. And so I didn't have time, right? Because I'm now also like, I'm less than a month and a half away from like my book launching at this point. And a book launch, nobody tells you how massive and how much energy that takes. That is, like I said, a full-time job. But I also have this experience of, so I get laid off on a Tuesday. When you open your hand to release, keep it open to receive. And in that same week, so the next day I found out I got cast. I know it sounds crazy, but I got cast to read my book. So I got cast to narrate. That comes with a check. Thank you. But then I had a major investment bank reach out and ask me about strategy and doing some work with them, but then also different book events. And so that came with the check. So I'm like, oh, wait, universe, God, Lord, you're like, open your hand. That job is gone, but I'm going to refill your hand with other opportunity. And so again, I know that that might not be everybody's story, but there's a beauty and blessing in there's opportunity in this and the reframe. And again, I didn't have a chance not to refocus quickly, but like opening, because I wouldn't have left my job. I want to be clear. I love my job. I was working at the nexus of my purpose and my passion.
We always do love our jobs.
And it was career, like it was perfect for me. I love my manager. I love my team. I love what I was doing. I love what we were evolving into. But to now be evolving in my own space has been really beautiful. And so it's been fascinating, but I also would be a liar if I didn't say I do have moments of grief, right? Because I love my job.
Yes.
It's like, man, like I was really looking forward to the things that we were going to do in this fiscal year and the things I wanted to build. And then you have those moments of like, I literally just went to another country and was doing work. But on the other side of this, I literally now have this book that talks about who are you when there are no titles around. And I now have to, in real life, determine who I am next and what I want to be next and what I want to be as I evolve and grow up using this tool that I created, thinking it was for others and now needing it for myself.
Perfect segue, because let's talk about it. Yes. Let's talk about Beyond Titles, why you chose that title, and what this book means to you and what you want others to receive from it. Before I tell you what, because I'm on, hold on, got the article, y'all. I want to say I'm on
love it.
3 or 4. Okay. So
you're on the circle about your community and the people in your life.
No. I'm on Inside Out. I'm on
mental health.
And then I'm moving into the circle. Yes. I'm getting in your business.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, very much. You get in my business throughout the whole book. So Beyond Titles. So like I mentioned, 10-year journey to the book. And so I've been brought into multiple corporations, including Google brought me back to do a training around really helping folks to think about like, who are they, right? Like how do you like think about authentic leadership and how you show up? And so I actually customized my training for Google and called that Beyond Titles, because the exercises I did with them was like, let's work on like these powerful impact statements that remove any title that you all are in, right?
Yeah.
And so it's funny because I've worked at Google, went back and designed this training for Google, and then it became the book title. But like much more broadly than that, there was this question that just kept coming up. And it's, who are you when there are no titles around? And I think that gives people pause, because we are taught that we are the sum of, in a lot of spaces, our titles. Can you talk about being a vice president? And, oftentimes, like, think about when you meet people, Dana. If you think about 10 times, in 10 times, how many times after you introduce yourself, people have asked you what you do?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It probably is 10 out of 10 times, right?
And that's the hard part once you get laid off and you don't know what you do, or you do so many things as we do. And I'm like, it took me a long time to frame what I did. I was like, I podcast, I speak, I'll do anything for some change at this point. Like, I don't really know what to tell you.
Right. But like, as you sat with it, you're like, I'm so much more, but I'm more than any of these one titles. And it's when you strip all that stuff away, you are actually a sum of your values. You're a sum of your history, which you walk through my history in my book to an extent. You are the sum of your experiences. And in this new age, an era with emerging technologies, titles are no longer sufficient, because if you can't feed into the system a synthesis of your skills and abilities, you're not getting a job anyway. Because titles, a chief revenue officer no longer means the same thing, right? And so it's, how do you speak about yourself from a space of skill, talent, gifts, and ability, and ultimately impact, so that you see yourself as bigger than any one title? Because no one title could ever contain your greatness anyway. And so the book is kind of that compilation of, I created this training, customized training for Google beyond titles. And this question kept coming up for me. And I was like, oh, because at first I thought the book was going to be called Who Are You When There Are No Titles Around? Right. And I was like, that doesn't really work. Right. That's long.
It doesn't have the same.
It's not as sexy. And I wanted a sexy book. But no, like, beyond titles makes you think.
Yeah.
And because I'm an entrepreneur, I have also trademarked that thing. So talk about entrepreneurial. But you know, it's fascinating because it makes people think. Because in many cases, and especially if you talk to boomers and Gen X, a lot of folks have not been afforded the opportunity to think about themselves without the weight of a title. And when you look at Gen Z, they don't care about a title. They think about value. So I think it's also like, I couldn't have predicted the time that we're in with this book coming out, because it is like the perfect convergence of us having to talk about who we are when there are no titles around, because titles don't necessarily carry the same weight that they once did. Your skill and your talent and your impact ultimately do now.
Yeah. When I think about who I am and my skill set and the impact that I want to have, or even just the feeling that I like to leave people with, there's not a word, like there's not a title for, I need to come into your space and make the people feel me and they're gonna love it. Like that's there's no title for
know what that title is, Dana?
Exactly. Exactly. So I love that you're calling this beyond titles. So beyond the title for yourself, you find yourself in a position where you're working on your book, you're scheduled to launch. Your mama says, we're not stopping this show. We keep it going. We moving forward. The book is going full throttle. And do you find yourself revisiting some of those chapters, some of those moments to be like, hey, I was making a roadmap for others, but now I can lean into it as well?
Absolutely. So this probably is not going to surprise you, but I am in a place of reimagining my what's next, right? And leveraging the last 3 chapters. So chapter 9, 10, and 11 are the biggest parts of the exercises to help you like really think about your values and what you're passionate about. And my core value set is not going to change, right? It's, be bold, be brave, be vulnerable, be authentic. But how does that show up in my what's next? And so, I am leveraging my book to help me think about, okay, one, dealing with my emotions. So the mental health, the inside out part. And so still very much in therapy every week, still talking it through, still being honest about when those moments of grief come up. But then also, like, as you get further into the book, like, a lot of what I talk about is like the intentionality and the intuition and leaning into like listening to my body more. And like as I'm reading job descriptions, like, there are things that just don't resonate for me now.
Yeah.
And like, how does my body respond to the job description I'm looking at? Or does it feel aligned? Right. So like alignment, right? Like leaning into a lot of those things that I built into the book. Like if it doesn't feel aligned, then that's not the thing. Right. Because I'm also I don't think you're there yet. You're definitely not there yet. I talk about I no longer take jobs because I can, because you end up having any old kind of experience.
Yeah.
And
like,
so
I shouldn't have done this.
Yes, like, and my therapist has told me on 2 occasions, well, you said you could do anything for a year. I was like, damn, you were right. Excuse me.
Maybe 6 months.
And so to really like challenge myself to ask, does this feel aligned? Are you being intentional? How does it feel in your body? But also like not pressuring myself, right? Because it's a journey, and the journey doesn't necessarily have an endpoint. And so like, how am I evolving through this for myself?
I like it. It's really perfect timing for me in regards to your book. I told you I was not a book reader, but once the audio came out, I was going to be on it. And I was on it this morning because it dropped.
Yeah.
For me, because in my first year of transition into what I like to call a voice for the voiceless, and all of the work, I just wanted to speak. Like I just wanted to speak, and I would do it for just about anybody, anywhere, anything. And it's because one, I was in survival mode. And then as I moved into my second year, I was able to be more selective, and then have some really good experiences that helped me gauge how I wanted to go about it. And now moving into my third year, it's like, oh, this is what I will do. This is what I will not do. This is where I will go, and this is where I will not go. So it's been a journey for me, and I'm excited to lean into some of the workshop things that you have inside of the book and really define that more for myself, because I know what I'm feeling in my intuition and alignment, as you talked about. But it's something about having a plan and actually workshopping it the way that you have the book broken down, because this is not a book you just gonna listen to, just go about your business. No, this is the book, you do the work. Like you are working. She put you to work. Yes. She's an executive. They love to put you to work.
But it's self-work, right? And that's why I love calling it a self-work book, because again, a lot of times we end up doing stuff because people have told us we're good at it. And what I want to push is like, interrogate your why. And if you can't stand 10 toes down on that why, if you don't have the courage to stand up for that why, then assess if that's the right reason.
Yeah.
And, what the stories I love the most, honestly, and not, separate from the book, are the people who like, and you've seen them on social media. It's this woman that's like, I was a high-powered executive, and then I went to a Pilates class, and now I'm a Pilates teacher. I'm in my soft pink era.
Yeah.
Solely because it's like, you know what? You weren't happy doing what you were doing, but you were told you had to.
Yeah.
And now you found that intersection of you being in your passion and your purpose, and you feel whole and you're thriving in it. And I talk in the circle. So it's the next chapter after the one you're in. My mentors have Voltroned around me. And like, there was one weekend, I didn't know I was going to talk to like 6 of them. Right. And like calling with like words of wisdom and words of encouragement. And like, you're going to be okay and at peace. And like, it's also the significance of like recognizing like, not only is it you, but it's the ecosystem around you.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the right people in your corner and on your team and giving you advice and giving you feedback, you also stand the risk of never really getting to that place of thriving.
Yeah. The team, the community, we talk about it all the time on the show. I think the theme comes up with every single guest. The community around you when you go through something like a layoff is so important. It's going to determine if you lay in your bed and cry for 45 days or if you get up and get active. It really is going to be, because there's a lot of stuff that we can do. Like we can self-motivate, but some days, sometimes I am not good at self-motivating myself. And I know that there is one person that will call this phone and say, when the next podcast coming out? It's been a couple weeks. So
Yes.
yeah, or when are you doing this? Or you need to get on that. So really having the community around you that knows your goals or can kind of sense, they might not even know what you want to do or what you should be doing, but they have a sense of who you are. And they're going to push you forward to be the best version of that. Now, when we think about other people in the community of hilarities, as I call them, those who are laid off, those who are in transition, and really trying to figure it out, what's the most important message that you want them to receive from this book?
One of the most important messages I want people to receive about this book is that authenticity and showing up as your whole and best authentic self is not a contrapositive to professionalism, right? Authenticity is standing up for someone in a meeting that you haven't heard their voice.
Yeah.
Authenticity is making sure that your values stay centered when you see something that might be not ethical or the best thing, right? Like it's not, I think we've allowed this conversation around authenticity to be, well, you just, like it's this, if you're authentic, you're not professional. And I'm like, that's just not true, right? Not at all, right? Like if you actually understand what authentic leadership is, you'll understand that it helps to augment and push professionalism forward. And so I think that's one important message. Because again, like if we're stripping away these titles, which the book requires you as you begin to do the exercises to get back to you, you'll see that like it's less about all of these other things and more about you and what you value and know and need to be true for yourself so that you can move forward with intention. And so I'll say you've already like kind of given the spoiler alert, but it's a lot of work. And I encourage people to take their time to do the exercises. One of the early exercises asks you to like think about like before anybody told you it was wrong, like what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah.
And then when I think about that for myself, I wanted to be a photographer. But that when I think about the fact that my work has been committed to creating access and opportunity through photography, you give people visuals that moments and opportunities that they've never seen, right? And so like I want folks to know that it's okay to like get back to you so that you can get to your next great thing.
That's amazing. I wanted to be an R&B singer. Now I can't keep my mouth shut. I'm not singing, but I am telling tunes. Okay.
And you are a superstar. How about that?
How
about that? How about that?
And thank you enough for bringing your energy and this amazing resource to myself and my audience. Y'all, I'm telling you, get the book, get the audio book, Beyond Titles. Fearlessly Leading as Your Authentic Self is out right now. You can get that thing on Amazon. You can get that thing on Audible. You can get that thing on Spotify. I've done my research. Okay. Call Barnes and Noble, tell them if they don't got it to get it. Because this is a book that you need. Share it with someone. The holiday season is coming up. So if you have someone that you love in your life and they're going through career transition or just need some space to really explore who they are and who they want to be going into the next year, this is a great gift for them. And why do I sound like I'm on QVC right now? I don't know.
I say sell the book for me, sis. And for people that are currently in roles, like here's the thing that I actually want people to take away. You should want, I'm going to make it plain. Life is best lived from a place of curiosity and constant learning. And who better to learn about than yourself? The growth and the evolution and being able to see and acknowledge all that you've been, all that you are, and reimagining all that you could become. Like who doesn't deserve that? So even if yes, we're talking to our hilarious, but for our folks that are currently in roles that are taking opportunity to listen to this, what do you want to grow in next, and how do you find that? And it might not be in a new role, it may be in a new hobby or activity, but like you should want to have a life where you're constantly learning. Otherwise, it might be time to tap out.
And with that has been Suzette, y'all. And her book, Beyond Titles, is out right now. So make sure you go and get that. Suzette, tell the people where they can follow you, connect with you, and support you further.
So www.suzette.com.
Mhm.
The other wonderful thing is that I have resources on the site. So you can, if you're like, I don't want to, so if you're one of my Audible folks, you can download the companion workbook so that you have a space to do the exercises. I have a future-proof guide on there. All the connections to my social are also there. I'm launching an executive mentoring cohort program. And so we'll have an online community for folks that want to be a part of that. All things Suzette live at www.suezette. I'm a heavy Instagram, LinkedIn, starting to try to get with children on TikTok, which is a whole different conversation for another day. But love to engage with my community. And so look forward to staying connected. And my website is kind of the hub for all things me.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that. And Hilarious, I want to thank you, even though you are stuffed with turkey, for tuning into another episode of the Hilariously Unemployed podcast. Remember, those leftovers are only good for 4 or 5 days. After that, throw them out and do not freeze them because we do not want those old collard greens.
Amazing. And Dana, really quickly, can I give you your flowers? Thank you for having the foresight and vision. So since we're in Gratitude Week,
okay.
Thank you for having the foresight and vision to create this space and to create a safe space to acknowledge like layoffs are hard.
Yeah.
But opportunity and the things ahead of you are even greater than what was there before. And so thank you for your courage and your strength and your passion and your commitment to us.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you for my flowers. And with that, y'all, enjoy that turkey. I'll see you on the next episode. Signing off, Dana Duckworth, aka the Big Speaker. See you next time. Bye.